Samupe, Sampa Bietia, Chimafidi non kotu, era one radio. Samupe, Jumpa Bietia, Chimafidi non kotu, era one radio. Oh, and you punctua, Asam punctua.
They are four women. They are beautiful with brains. They are eloquent, decent, wise, and experienced. You have heard many, the funny. Now, it's time to hear the experience and the brainy. Meet Selena, Dorcas, Gifty, and Annette as they present the real in common getting. In common BISS chain, the dead, as in Takrenu assume the dead, the real in common getting. Showing live this and every Sunday, 7 p.m. on Era One Radio on Facebook and on YouTube, Era One Radio and on Taibo channel. Kaise, so we see the real in common getting ya. What brabon tete, we nyan konkonsa, we the real in common.
Hello, good evening, Era One Radio listeners and viewers all over the world. It's another Thursday, the 27th day of February 2025. I believe you've been watching CNN, MSNBC, News Nation, GTV, whatever you want to listen throughout the day. Some of the news have been very demoralizing. You hear them, you hear how people are being fired left and right, and that actually demoralizes you. Or you live in a place where doomsday has become a rerun of the day. Maybe you are discouraged, but tonight I want you to draw your attention to Era One, the Divine Connection Show, where we bring you exciting and encouraging stories. Whatever your day has been, we want you to join us. So go to Facebook, go to YouTube, go to TikTok, and click on Era One Radio and listen to this encouraging service that we are bringing you tonight. Well, it's the Divine Connection Show. This is where divinity meets humanity. It's the Era One Radio by courtesy of Dr. Ostus. We are bringing you a live show. And again, it's on YouTube, Facebook, and TikTok. All right. Tonight is another edition. We are coming with a very fresh topic. Fresh from the oven, like a couple that has just gotten married. It's fresh. Maybe you might have heard it from us some time ago. But this tonight, we are coming from a different perspective. My panel used to say that what we go through in the Bible is not something that happened in the past, although some of them are historic in the past. But then it actually depicts what is going on, what is currently happening. So the Bible is not something that happened. It is what is still happening. And Solomon rightly said that there's nothing new under the sun. Whatever we're experiencing have been experienced before. So tonight we are looking at a very special topic, very special topic. It's about a man, a pharaoh, who came on the scene to be the leader of the nation, and he was a bit amnetic. I don't know whether there's a word like that. If somebody has amnesia, they will correct me. The guy was a bit amnetic. He didn't remember stuff. The guy that was came in as an immigrant was gifted with interpreting dream. Even when you haven't mentioned your dream, he knew the dream you're going to have and he would tell you. This guy was on the scene. He was in prison. He came out after 2 years after one of the friends, the butler had remembered him. He interpreted a dream for Pharaoh. It saved the people of Egypt for 7 years. There was bliss. There was food all over the land. And so Joseph cautioned them and said, you know what, guys, you are enjoying the booty that you have, but the time is going to come where there will be leanness, there will be famine. And so please build silos and store all the extra food. Don't put it in the trash. Save all the food in the silo, because when the hunger comes, you can use them at that time. If you haven't heard of any wise guy like this guy who will be able to prepare you for the future, I don't know what it is. No wonder Pharaoh said, let's make this guy next to me. He'll only be above me, only in terms of what? The kingdom. But in actual fact, he presides over Egypt. So as years went on, this Joseph died. And they kept having Pharaoh upon Pharaoh, leader upon and Bible says a time came when this Pharaoh didn't remember that there was even a Joseph. Tonight, we are going to go to that story. And my big men here are going to do that. We are 8 minutes behind time. So I will just let them give me 2 seconds each. Don't go beyond 2 seconds. Greetings, whatever you want to do, shout out, and let's zoom into our study. All right. Uncle Max, what you got?
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of The Divine Connection. Hope you enjoyed this particular one.
Amen.
Over to you, Pastor.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to our listeners. We promise to bring you enlightening perspectives. And today, we'll see some interesting perspective as to what is happening in our contemporary world. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So, this is not something I made up from my mind or anywhere. It is from the scriptures. And if you come to Divine Connection, we are biased. We believe in the Bible. We believe in the omnipotence of God. We believe in his omnipresence and omniscience. We believe in God. We believe in Jesus Christ. That is our faith. So if you don't believe, I'm sorry, without any apologies. That is our belief. So that's what we're going to discuss. And I believe there are a lot of Christians around who want to listen to our program. So if you are not, well, I would just encourage you to come be one of us. Again, go to Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and listen to our program. If you want to call in, it's 240-280-2633, or you can text 510-9310946. All right, let's go. Because this is not coming from me, I'm going to read from the scripture quickly so you know where it's coming from, and then we'll continue. Do I have your permission, sis?
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right, so we're picking our text from Exodus chapter 1, verse 7 to 14. Exodus 7 says, "And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them." 8. "Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph." That is the title of our talk tonight. "And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them up out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses." 12. "But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. 14. "And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick, and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor." The people actually hustled and suffered. All right, Uncle Max, let's forget about the caption that I took. If one of your students came to you and says, "Max, what is the subject of this text that I read?" how would you describe it to your students?
Well, I think there are a few things happening here, but the key element is, I think, what modern psychologists would call xenophobia, in which the children of Israel became othered by the host population, who then started to view them with suspicion and decided to make their lives very difficult in order to try to prevent them from becoming stronger within the society. And this is something we are experiencing today. If you go to South Africa, today's generation have forgotten the support they got from the rest of Africa during their struggle against apartheid. And they have risen up against other Africans within South Africa. If you go to America, the largely white population have forgotten how America was built with the labor of many people from many different parts of the world. And it has now become a critical focus of today's Trump administration that they should diminish the power as far as possible of those who they deem to be less than first-class citizens. You understand? So this is a recurrent theme within humanity and human society.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Uncle Max. Nisabam, any addition?
I think Uncle Max has nailed it on the head. So let's proceed. Whatever I will say will be a rehash.
Okay, I love rehashes, but since you don't want to rehash, let me ask you: from what you've just read, what are all the possible stakeholders that we have in this story? What are who have interest, and who does this scripture's interest go to?
Me or
Well, I
Uncle
guess
Max?
Yeah, the man who didn't want to rehash, Uncle Robert.
Okay, I will name one. Uncle Max will name others. Obviously, the Pharaoh.
Okay, Pharaoh is one of the stakeholders. Okay, what else? Or who else?
Uncle
the
Max.
Pharaoh represents the Egyptians.
Egyptians.
So that would be another stakeholder group because, in a sense, they would be the ones who would be executing the will of the Pharaoh, and they would be representing Egypt's interests, social interests. But
How
then
about how?
you have to also then acknowledge that the Israelites, children of Israel, were the I don't know whether you call them the antagonists or the protagonists here. They were on the receiving end of the edicts of the Pharaoh of the time.
All right. This about what is the crux of the matter here? What is actually at stake? What is the beef in this story? Or why should we be worried about this story?
Okay, but before I answer, I will not that I don't agree, but whether the Uncle Max said the Pharaoh represented the Egyptians, and therefore they will constitute the same entity. It's a
No, I
bit.
didn't say that. Now, I'm separating the Pharaoh from his
Okay, the
people.
Pharaoh from okay,
For the
and
citizens.
that so we will have more than two interest groups or individuals involved here, right? You have the children of Israel, you have the Pharaoh or the king, and then you have the people, the
Egyptians.
Egyptians, the people of Egypt, right? So we have three
Yes.
stakeholders rather than two,
Stakeholder groups. Yes.
right?
Can we include any outsiders who benefit from the labor and the products of Egypt? Or
Interestingly, yes, the enemies of Egypt,
okay,
because the Pharaoh actually mentioned it in verse 10 that if when war breaks out in the future, the children of Israel will align themselves with Egypt's enemies and fight Egypt, right? So, of course, they would be, right? They will constitute a stakeholder class in this matter. Okay, so back to your question, right? What was, could you please ask your question
yeah, I
again?
was asking the crux of the matter. What was really at stake? What is the beef
Okay,
here? The stake.
very interesting, lovely question. And it almost actually forces me to look at what Uncle Mark said earlier. If you look at verse 10, in fact, before we even go to verse 10, I would like us to look at verse 9, right? The Pharaoh said, and this, the author, I'm reading directly. He said, and he said, or I said, now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. So let's say there had been a transition, political transition, right? A new king had emerged. And the Bible said he did not know Joseph. Wow. Wow. So let's go back a bit more and read verse 7. The author says, and the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. These are all properties of the children of Israel. Then in verse 9, this king, who was the overlord of the whole of Egypt, the author said, he spoke to his people. That is one issue one has to literally come to some sort of standstill. and ask what is happening here. Because the white people here will mean the whole of Egypt. Because the king represented or was the overlord of the whole of Egypt. And so if anybody was in Egypt, and let's put it on the table now, everybody now in Egypt, including the children of Israel, were Egyptians. Because they were all born in Egypt. So when the author tells us that the king, in verse 9, the king said unto his people, that people there, who is it referring to?
The citizens.
Is it the whole of Egypt or a segment of Egypt?
Well, if you look at the preamble, it's like it's talking to those, I wouldn't say natural, they were all Egyptians, but them, his kind, not the Israelite.
So the non-Israelite
population,
population of Egypt.
Yes.
But the author has deliberately chosen to present this as his people.
Yeah, because the next phrase says the people of the children of Israel.
Israel. So now that's why one has to read this carefully. The whole people in the first line refer to the whole of Egypt. But now the king says the people of the children of Israel, distinguishing them from the rest of Egypt. So the first question, was he the overlord of the whole of Egypt, including the children of Israel, or he was the overlord of the whole of Israel, or the whole of Egypt, excluding the children of the people of Israel? That's
let me go back to the 9 a bit. The first part of the sentence, and he said unto his people, and then in the second aspect of it, where it begins from behold, does it not presupposes that he was being biased and limiting his people?
That's what the author is trying to say without saying it explicitly. And that's where we now come in to expose what the intent of the author is in that particular. You getting me? To force thinking. And it helps us to look at this text carefully. And Dr. Boison, that is the writer introducing the word behold, right? That word, when you see it in biblical literature, it means pay attention.
Look, consider.
This is important, right? So we are learning the tricks of reading, critical reading of the Bible in this. So
if I may come in here,
please go ahead.
On this point, it's a point I made many times, but I don't think very many people get it. In America, you have the popular idea of a government of the people, by the people, for the people.
Yeah.
But behold, we assume it is assumed.
Don't get me into trouble.
It is assumed that the people refers to the same group of people in those three categories. And it is not necessarily so. Because the reality is that the government of the people, that first people refers to basically the middle and lower classes, the hoi polloi.
The proletariat.
The people refers to the political classes and the administrators and so on, the middlemen, if you like, in the pyramid. For which people, the oligarchs and the corporatists who actually own most of America at the top. of the people
But Uncle Max, if I'm not
by
cutting,
a different set
you,
of people for a different set of people.
Uncle Max, if you critically look at what the framers did with the Constitution, all the phrase they used was meant to cover everybody without any prejudice or biasedness. But
No,
unfortunately,
I disagree. Please read the American Constitution. Blacks and Native Americans were not considered human. We were considered 3 feet.
At least not fully human.
Yeah, so it wasn't
human only from the neck down.
You getting me? So when you are talking about Uncle Max has a point. I haven't looked at things that way, but this is the brutal truth. This is the brutal truth, right? So we are not taking sides. We are educating, right?
next week we'll bring the Constitution here.
Yes. So
next week I'm bringing the Constitution here.
Oh yeah. I mean that's like I had to eat it like my food. You getting me? So Uncle Max, I salute you for that observation, right? So we come back to the text, Uncle Max and Dr. Boison. The author has presented something, and most people will read it like casually, right? But the author has put certain things there for the serious students to pay attention, right? So my first question, why the use of two peoples? The first people, as Uncle Max said, is it for the whole of Egypt, right? Or it included some people and excluded some people? We don't know. But the second part gives us a clue, because the king goes ahead and says, the children of the people of the children of Israel. And so the next question that comes, at this point in time, where were the Israelites? Didn't they have, at least, according to Uncle Max, the middle managers who will be ruling? So
are we saying that this was like a town hall constituent meeting that the king was addressing them?
Possibly. But the children of Israel were absent, because the king couldn't have said what he said, right? When we read the whole of verse 10, if the children of Israel were there.
Yeah, he wouldn't have said that. Let's deal brutally with them. Mm-hmm.
So with that thought, let's bring it to our modern times. Uncle Max nailed it on the head, right? Historically in America, some people were excluded. Though they prepared the table, they were not invited to the table.
The crumbs.
And they didn't even get the crumbs.
The Syrophoenicians.
You getting me? So let's face it, brutal as it is. And it wasn't in America, it was in South Africa, it was in Namibia, right? They almost practiced it in Ghana during colonial times, right? You went to different places, the same. So you are looking at the human condition and what self-interest could drive a people to do, right? And therefore, this text is a study, call it more of the psychology of the human psyche. That human beings, we are driven by interest. We are driven by interest, right? And so the idea is that there isn't enough for everybody. So if we have a given resource, since that resource is not likely to be enough to cover everybody, those who get the chance to have a piece of it must literally appropriate it for themselves. And it becomes part of the human struggle for survival. So again, it's easy for Christians to look at this text and condemn the Pharaoh, right? Condemn the Egyptians. The question is it even happening in Ghana one way or the other in another form currently? Possibly yes. I don't care. I've looked at the ministerial appointments and the CEOs and what have you. Guns are left out, and I'm gone. Guns, how many guns can you count? In Muhammad said this thing. I'm a gun. So I am putting it on record that this test is also telling us about what happens in the local setting.
Uncle Max, do you have DEI in Ghana?
Do you have what? Sorry?
DEI.
DEI.
Does it operate in Ghana?
We have a version of it. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's more focused on not so much diversity as multiplicity of one's tribal connections. So it is not DEI as you know it over there in the US. But certainly there are biases in the appointments of people to positions and so on. But you have to remember that in Ghana, there are two main tribes. There's a tribe of the NDC and there's a tribe of the NPP. So,
that's a tribe, huh?
So within the tribe of the NDC,
years, we get a new pharaoh and they come here and say, oh, we don't recognize the people of the children of NPP or people of the children of NDC. So we must suppress them lest they rise up and make life difficult for us.
So that is purely not on qualification basis. That's the guns are not qualified. That's not the point.
No, but you see, all I'm saying is we are trying to understand this case, to understand the human condition. Are you getting me? Because that's where it becomes helpful. And it's not just something you read and go your merry way. The author is bringing out something important about the human being and the way self-interest can literally inform our decisions and actions. That's the point. So let's come back to the text. The king addressed his people, and the people were supposed to include the whole of Egypt. But here, we realize that he was talking to some people, and some people were not invited. Right? And that's why verse 7 becomes important. Right? Verse 7 tells us that the Israelites were fruitful. So prosperity was in their hands. Right? And verse 10, the king will actually confirm it. So how come the group that literally made prosperity possible
for the country,
for the nation, was not invited to all this all-important meeting? And so back to the meeting. Greater Accra, NDC, you captured 30 of the 34. That's Ghana entry. Asiedu Keteke alone, the votes, the number of votes in Asiedu Keteke alone is more than the whole of the Upper East combined. How come guns are lost? They are missing
in action, huh?
Yeah. No. Let's put that. Whoever it is, now know that there is a gunman out there who is not happy with what is not.
Well, you could have been there to take the position.
Literally, 90% voted for NDC, and it has been so. Just like you come to America, blacks vote for the Democratic Party, and when they come to power, you don't see blacks black appointment is the same thing that is happening. So this test is only telling us this is the human condition. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. This is the human condition. So back to the test again. Some people were missing. Some people who had the prosperity of Egypt were not invited to the table. And then the next question
could it mean they were being used instead of being appreciated? Or
we are going step by step with the test. The next question I want to ask: was there no Egyptian of conscience with conscience to question why this thing? Why the unnecessary segregation? Why the unnecessary discrimination? And then you come to America and you know, why aren't many white people complaining about what is happening? Is it because everything that is happening is designed to only cater to their interest?
Uncle Max, let me take a quick jingle and let's calm down. Okay, and then when you come back, you continue.
Sure. Chimafidi non kotu era one radio. Samupe jumpe bietia. Chimafidi non kotu era one radio. Oh, and you panchima. Chimtu, asam panchima. Chimtu, negratum chima. Era one.
You are still connected to a Divine Connection show. This is where divinity meets humanity. Well, before the quick break of a jungle, Nisaba was asking a question. Why would the Pharaoh sideline or just put aside his own people, in quotes, his kind, and tell them about what he intended to do with the other non-Egyptian? Why wasn't there anybody at the table to vouch for the Israelites or anything of that nature? And he was asking why the status quo we have in this country, other parts of the world, following a similar suit. Uncle Matt was ready to pour us his response. So now I go back to him. We are all here, sir.
Okay. Now, this is an input, isn't a direct response to Pastor Akrong's statement. But it's a further interrogation of the use of the phrase, the people of the children of Israel. Because Pharaoh could simply have said, the children of Israel have multiplied and so on. But his usage of that phrase, the people of the children of Israel, suggests that the children of Israel, perhaps because of their prosperity and so on, actually included amongst their influence or stakeholder group, perhaps a lot more people who were not children of Israel, who may have been Egyptians, who may have been from other nationalities.
So there was a kind of intermarriage. Are you saying there could be some intermarriages amongst them?
There could be, but the important point here is that the children of Israel, maybe they had influence and control over other peoples who were not children of Israel. In the same way that the Jewish caucus in the US is a relatively small number of people, but their influence over businesses which are largely non-Jewish, their influence over processes, over institutions which are largely non-Jewish, is completely disproportionate to their number.
Mm-hmm.
In a sense. So the people of the children of Israel, in all probability, was greater numerically than the children of Israel themselves because of their prosperity and therefore the influence that they had over the economy of Egypt. And we see the same thing here. You come to Ghana, we have a small number of, for example, Indians and Syrians and Lebanese who have been here for several generations. Their numbers are small, but they control much of the economy. And you could talk about the people of the Lebanese community, which is all the people who they employ, who work for them or do business with them, and so on. So their influence exceeds the numerical strength that one sees on the ground because they have economic multipliers that multiply their presence and their capability to influence events within the territory. So that's
I like that. I like that.
To add.
I like that. I like that angle. Thank you, Uncle Max. Yeah, so again, back to the verse 9. We are doing our analysis, right, Dr. Boison?
Yes, sir.
He said, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we, the Egyptians. So again, here, we have to look at what was really on the ground. According to the king, and here I'm going to do a bit of rhetorical device, right? Rhetorics here, looking at the believability of the data presented, right? The information presented. You want to look at the believability of it.
But Pastor, before you continue, let me just chime in this. If the Pharaoh had done some research or assignment, he would have known that the grandparent or grandfather of these children of Israel, Abraham, had a very beautiful discussion with God, or he was a fool, where God has said that, Abraham, I will bless anyone who blesses you and curse anyone who curses you. So that kind of blessing was following the children of Israel. No wonder.
Dr. Boison, you'll be
Don't
making.
tell me I'm bringing a foreign material.
No. You're absolutely right. But I'm also telling you, if you are not a Christian, the Bible is not a material, it's not a source of your belief system.
So Pharaoh wouldn't even read it.
Let's face it. Let's face it. And it's part of scholarship for us to know certain things. That if you and I as Christians, we believe in the Bible, right? So whatever is stated there, we know it has the fingerprint of God, and therefore full believability. But a Muslim, for example, will not buy that truth necessarily. A Hindu, right? So let's take it that the Pharaoh will have no reason, because don't forget, Israel was a superpower at this time. Egypt was a superpower at this time, and they didn't know Abraham. You get me? So
I mean, even Joseph was still living not too long. They forgot about Joseph. How much more even
so
Abraham?
that will even come there. We'll come to that point. But the point I'm trying to establish, the believability of the utterances of the Pharaoh, right? Here, the rhetorical analysis will tell you the Pharaoh had ethos on his side. And ethos in rhetoric simply means a message is believed simply because of the messenger. The standing, the reputation, the name, whatever, of the messenger, right? And here you have the Pharaoh lending his position, his stature, his influence to the believability of this particular data. And what is the data? The Pharaoh said, the children of Israel, they have more strength. Said they are mightier. And they have numerical advantage. The next question becomes, how come the Egyptians, I'm talking of Israelite Egyptians, how come they ended up being the overlords even when they didn't have strength or numerical advantage? How were they able to turn the group with numerical and strength advantage into slaves? And then you begin to ask, how come in our contemporary world, some people, as Uncle Ma said, literally with small numbers, coming from a place with little resources, are now controlling virtually all the resources in the world?
I think it stands to reason that might is not always in quantity.
But here in this case, might was on their side, quantity was on their side.
But less power.
How did they end up being slaves? You getting me? And then you come to Ghana on command. I mean, Ghanaians control, quote unquote, our resources. None. We have all the numbers. How come we are literally serving the few numbers who don't even identify? You get me? Again, we are trying to understand the world.
Yeah.
We are trying to understand the world, how the world works, for us to be able to get a true picture, and with that information, be able to strategize properly. Else,
Is it a slavery mentality? Because, like you rightly said, when the British were in Ghana, their numbers were few compared to the actual Ghanaians, but they were in power. And these guys too in the Bible, the Israelites were more. I mean, of course, they started from Goshen, where their senior brother Joseph sojourned them. They grew and multiplied. They are more, but still, I guess that's why we are here tonight. I mean, we're going to reason it out. Why numbers don't actually translate or transform into power, but rather the less people, either because of knowledge or lack of wisdom on the part of others. What is that? What puts them into slavery? Because if you are more, and you are, of course, it could be the Egyptians were even practicing bear control or whatever it is, but still they had power.
We don't know. Uncle Mans, I'm not going to cut you. Today, as we speak, Japan released the state of the population, right?
Yeah.
Japan birth rate has fallen so low that for the last 15 years, declining birth rates. Today, when Japan released its the state of its population, the whole of last year, with a population of over 127 million, only 720,988 births the whole of 2024. Meanwhile, there was 1.62 1,622,000,000 deaths. And Japan is supposed to be a superpower. And so these are, again, trying to understand the dynamics of the world. What really happens? How does life work? Could it be that people we think don't really have anything actually hold the secret of life? We don't know. How come
Dr. Boison made an important point. This is a passage from the Bible. For lack of knowledge,
the people
perish. And also, I think we have to accept the obvious that when some people have superior knowledge, they will flourish.
Okay.
And that superior knowledge depends very much on the circumstances, what prevails. So either typically falls into one of two camps. Either you have technological superiority of knowledge, or you have superiority of economic manipulation and management. So the Brits came. Their superiority was in the fact that they had guns and they had cannons and so on. So they were able to destroy things and people much faster than we were able to destroy them. So they prevailed. They also came with other distractions and diversions, if you like, that caused our society to lose confidence in itself. Yeah, so they had a knowledge base which they brought to bear. And through initially military superiority, they then followed up with an educational program that conditioned us to accept their civilizational superiority. And then, therefore, they said, okay, fine, you have to lease this land to us so we can mine the thing, and we want you to work for us, and we want you to pay taxes to us, and so on. And we complied. Yeah, so that way we became subjugated, and that mental slavery has yet to be overcome. In the case of the Israelites in Egypt, clearly they had superiority in terms of economic management and business acumen. They probably also, because remember, Joseph's one of his core strengths was the gift of translation and prophecy. So he probably anticipates where the business opportunities were going to be, and for advise his brothers and others in the Jewish community, this is where you want to invest, that is where you want to build your business, and so on. So with those kinds of insights, they would have flourished. Yeah. And it is also the case that generally immigrants who come into a new space, they are coming because they want a better economic opportunity. So they're going to work harder than the indigents.
Yeah.
Who take everything for granted because they've been there. It's the immigrants who typically work at the cutting edges of the economy, bringing new ideas, new businesses, new arrangements, new products, and so on. And this is the thing that has made America great, which America seems to have forgotten.
Yeah.
Yes,
so back to the same topic.
But I mean,
the benefits of the Israelites when they came. Yeah.
My question that is the question that is still bothering me is look at a place like South Africa. You guys already mentioned it. When the whites were there, or they came, the indigenes were already there. The local people were there. They dominated.
Yes.
The Pigbotes time and all that until Mandela said, you know what, no more. And then you take Ghana's situation. We've already said the Brits came there with their mentality. They cowered us, and even we ourselves were betraying ourselves. Even we went into the bushes and pulled our own folks and brought them and put them in the castle to be enslaved. Then we come to this country. America said, you know what? Now we have a different system of, pulling you guys. We are not going to come there and beat you up. We're just going to bait you and you come. And the resources in our country weren't that good. So if you get a green card, you're not going to stay. You will come. You will come and enjoy what we call the green pastures. So these terms we have to be able to understand. What actually makes some people dominate even when their numbers are more, they have their quantity, and still subservience is still our portion.
Dr. Boison, again, I have to be careful here because we have a physicist in our midst, right? We have two terms, centrifugal force and centripetal force. The centrifugal force dispels things from the center to the peripheries. The centripetal attracts things from the peripheries to the center.
Don't let him ask you to code the formula, otherwise you'll be in trouble.
Yes. No, I'm a literature man, so don't ask me no equations, at least. But what I'm saying is, again, we are learning. At any point in time, one of the things one has to have at his disposal to understand call it the phenomena of the times, right, is this. Which of the forces is operating in a place at any point in time, right? Because it seems as if at any point in time, something is moving from a point to a certain
Point.
right? So in our current situation, it's as if the Western world is the centripetal force. It is
Fully.
attracting, drawing people from every part
To the center.
to the center, which will be the Western world. And then should I say the Eastern world or the other parts of the world become the centrifugal force. We are displacing and literally sending our people to wherever they may go towards the center. And it helps to have that sort of mind, and then it becomes an interpretive handle to understand a lot of the happenings in the world. But that notwithstanding, Dr. Boison, I'm refocusing this discussion on the text, right? The king comes and says, these people, they are more. They are mightier than us. Then back to what Uncle Mark said, the king also echoed that. Let us deal wisely with them. And so wisdom, and you all know that wisdom is the highest form of knowledge, because wisdom is applied knowledge. So the king said, let us apply wisdom, which will include knowledge. One, knowledge of the terrain, knowledge of human behavior, knowledge of conditions, whatever, right? And use it so we can gain a certain advantage, right? And it takes me back to Ghana, 1972. Achampong came on the scene. One of the first things he said was that his goal was to put Ghanaians at the commanding heights of Ghana's economy. Lovely. Idi Amin did the same thing in Uganda. Are you getting me? And so there is this thing about life where a leader becomes interested in the lot of his people. But again, the reality on the ground confronts such a leader. What are the details of the problem? Are you getting me? Lebanese who call themselves Ghanaians, they were born in Ghana. The Syrians, what have you? Though their countries are
shows away.
No, their countries are shitty countries. I permit my French.
This is Bukom language. This is not
because
French.
Syria even doesn't. Are you getting me? But they are the elites in Ghana, right? But so again, we are looking at life, and life is beginning to present us with some interesting pictures.
But Pastor Kwan, well said. But why can't we, if you look at the economy, those of us who did the economics, whether it was 1 year or 2 years, if you look at the factors of production, labor is one of the resources. Why wouldn't a king look at, okay, these are the attributes of these people. They are more, they are mightier. Why don't we look at the positive side of using these people to better the economy, but rather decide to go against them, to be shoot against them, to deal wisely, instead of thinking negative that they're going to join other forces when war comes? Why don't you say we are going to use these people's resources to get our country better? Why does that have to make it negative?
Dr. Wesley, that's what this author is trying to make you understand. That is the thinking. You and I are doing the typical thinking of a rational human being. But what the author is trying to tell you, sometimes it is not rationality that drives the agenda. Something else.
Uncle Mark,
Right.
tell us what is it that drives the agenda?
No. I may not be able to actually pinpoint what one particular.
No, you are saying I just want Uncle Mark to join. I mean, you are right on course.
To understand again, that's why this study is so important. This platform is so important.
It's very simple, actually. I think, Pastor Krong made reference to centrifugal forces and centripetal forces. Yeah, in a sense, these are two expressions of the fundamental forces of creation. Basically, there are two forces: that which repels and that which attracts. Yeah, one is of God. God brings people and things together. Satan
is it always the case? Is it always the case, Uncle Max?
A few exceptions.
Is it always the case?
A few exceptions.
Yes.
Genesis 11, God scattered some people.
It's a question of how high, what level you choose to.
It all depends on the motives. It depends on the motives.
Because ultimately, whatever happens within the universe, it is one universe. Okay. And nobody that I know can escape the universe and go somewhere else. We are all in this together.
Okay.
Yeah? And God, therefore, has responsibility for everything within it. You understand? Now, I'm not, how should I put it? We're talking about human motivations here. Okay? Yes, there's a natural process where things fall apart. When you and I eat a hamburger, unless that hamburger is destroyed, it falls apart, we will not get nutrition out of it. So the disintegration of the hamburger leads to the continuance of our biological bodies. So destruction and
would you rather say transformation then, or conversion from one form to the other would rather, I believe, would rather be better than disintegration?
Okay, you can call it conversion, but whatever you call it, something disappears. Yeah, it gets deconstructed and then gets
reconstructed somewhere
in a different form.
Well, that's what we have the conservation of energy.
Yeah. Matter is
those processes of creation and destruction and balance, the Trinity, those are natural. But we are talking about human motivation here. What motivates people? And what I'm suggesting is, as you said, there are two motivators: the fear of loss and hope of gain. Okay, and we are attracted. When we are attracted to something, it is because God has basically put in us the thing that leads us to what will benefit the rest of creation. Okay. So it's an attraction, an attractive force. When you see division and separation, it is typically because fear or hatred and so on have come in. And these are the qualities that Satan injects into a situation. So when a leader says that we are going to ostracize these people or we are going to suppress those people, this is not God speaking. This is the influence of the evil one. God will say, as you've been suggesting, Dr. Boison, God will say, why don't we embrace these people and help them to help us so everybody benefits, so we all prosper. Let us learn from them instead of trying to suppress them. And in also see what's actually at play in Ghana when you talk about our PhD mentality, the pull him down mentality. You know, it is not of God. Even though we may go to church religiously and do all-nighters 6 times a week and all of that.
All right, thank you very much, Uncle Mas. But as the name of the book portrays, Exodus, which means they were getting ready to exude or to leave. But I believe that this was at the what is it? Not across the bottom, but this one at the pinnacle, the zenith, the highest point, because there had been a prophecy that Israel will go into slavery, and after 400 years or so, they will come out. So I believe at this point, I don't know whether God was motivating the Pharaoh to put fire behind the Israelites to gradually get them getting out, because he had to create an environment where the Israelites wouldn't want to thrive anymore, which will eventually lead towards their exit. That is not the point, but I'm just saying that, maybe God was making things work according to what he had prophesied, spoken to Abraham, that the time will come that they will leave. But that is not an excuse for Pharaoh to treat the people this way, because he was supposed to utilize the experience and the power and the multiplicity of the people to better his economy. Because without Israel, Egypt's economy was nothing, because they were the ones that provided the labor. Anyway, 1 minute each of you to give your closing remark, and then we are 3 minutes over. Who takes Uncle Max? You want to take it? I mean, anybody can take it first, and then
Uncle Max, go ahead.
There's so much that can be said, but this particular passage is so how shall I say, redolent of what's going on in our world today, where many countries are struggling with what they perceive to be foreign or non-indigenous elements, and are having difficulty creating an equitable and fair society in which all may benefit and which all may participate to the extent of their ability and their inclination. The other thing I think I should mention is that very often when people do things with an evil motivation, they may well be being prompted to do that by the higher authority of God, because God ultimately is in charge, and he can use the negative energies of any situation or of anybody's intention and use that to engineer a situation where ultimately good comes out of it. And I think this is one example of that kind of situation.
So sometimes he has to get worse before he gets better.
Yeah, Dr. Boison, for me, I want to look at it this way from a student of literature. I mean, for people to think about it, it's not really. I'm looking at the players here, right? What does the individual do that will make him typify the Pharaoh? What can an individual do, or what could he do, or what an individual does that will make him typify the Israelites, the Egyptian, the tax masters, right? What have you in the text? Because each player here played a certain part in this sorry narrative, right? But again, the narrative paints a picture of the human condition. And once you understand it, you will understand life and how the world works. And hopefully, one will use that information in making better decisions and performing better actions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, we're going to continue this next week, because we just touched. This is the first in this series that we just touched. So please share this. Go to Facebook, go to YouTube, go to TikTok, and share this script or presentation with your people, because we're coming back next week to go deeper. Because I still don't understand whether this decision was taken by the Pharaoh alone, or he had a cabinet meeting and said, okay, I'm going to speak on behalf of my cabinet, or he had a town hall meeting and so I'm going to speak on behalf of my town hall people constituency. We don't know that for now, but all we know is that he said, come on, let us deal, which means the us that makes it plural. Maybe he has some advisors advise him to go and deal with them or whatever. We'll know as we get along the weeks. But for now, we'll rest our discussion here. Thank you very much, Uncle Max. Thank you, Neil Sabam. You both are always You haven't ceased to overhaul me. Thank you for your knowledge and all that you bring on this platform. And also, we are thankful to Austin for making all this possible. And thanks to all of you that are listening and watching. Please share this knowledge, because we always say you're not going to find this presentation in any textbook or any video. It will only come from Era One. It will only come from Divine Connection. It will only come from Pastor Akron and Uncle Max, with me sitting here as a moderator. This is an interesting story. It's awesome. It is not what happened in the years ago. It's what is happening currently. It has a parallel in our contemporary times. It could be in Ghana. It could be in the US. It could be in South Africa. It could be anywhere. These are nuggets that kind of undergets every institution, and we have to learn them and be wise, because at the end of the day, we have to leave our posterity a better nation and a better system for them come and learn from what we practice and to be better people. And so on behalf of our team, thank you all for listening. We'll meet again same time next week if the Lord doesn't come. If there's no rapture, we'll meet here again. And I believe he decides to come without a visa too. We'll meet him in the clouds. As for me, I've already bought my ticket. You better get yours. And so when the rapture sounds with the trumpet, we can go with him. Uncle Max, go get some sleep. That's why we have about 5 more hours to go to midnight, so we can chill. You don't have too much time, so get some sleep. And we thank God that tonight there wasn't any glitch. I mean, Doomsaw has been nice to us today. We thank God for that. So, well, gentlemen, I'll see you next week. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Boison.
You're welcome.
I hear Dr. Uncle Max, who remember you.
Thank you.
All righty. Bye-bye. And tell President Mahama, we need some guns in his cabinet. Otherwise, Nisaba is going to come over and shake the cabinet. Let him know. And I
have another idea. Maybe the guys need to go on an exodus from the NDC. Come to the promised land. Come to the promised land. Let's go PhD.
I watched one of them.
That's your fellow. He's not very good. Come to a different land.
I'm not even going there. I'm just commenting on one of my schoolmates. I don't know whether it's my junior. What is his name? Oh, he shares a lot of this thing. Afenyi Markin. I listened to some of Afenyi Markin. I said, oh Lord, yeah, he went to my school, Augustus, and the way he graced, I was watching the interview he had with what is his name? John Domelo. I said, oh Lord, what is this? And he had it with the Attorney General. Oh, mess, a whole mess. Anyway, let me leave. Let me leave before he gets crazy. All right. Oh man, I say, I guess. I mean, Afen, you can't do this to us. I mean, you went to Augustine. For God's sake, please do better.
What do you mean by you went to Augustine? So you can't do what?
What has he done? Augustine. I mean,
what has he done?
It's Augustine. I mean, yeah.
So what has he done?
Well, I didn't like some of the way he was questioning, interviewing the nominees.
He has shown himself to be childish.
I mean, it wasn't good for him. I didn't like the interview. Some of the interviews that he's had. I mean, how can you even ask somebody to dance bobo whilst you are being?
The point is, it was a question leading to something else.
No, but Pastor Crum, somebody is, being nominated for a position. You want him to dance bobo just because of cultural? I mean, that was it.
Again, you have to deal with the context. It's not. You have to understand the context of the situation.
No, right? I listened to a lot of the interview.
There was tension, and it was a way to break the tension.
I disagree. Anyway.
Yes. Okay, you can. I mean, hey, I'm fighting for my. NPP didn't give guys any position. I thought NDC would give. They haven't given that, so I'm pissed.
Then why are you sitting here? Why don't you go and get yours? Go get yours.
I am pissed.
Go and let them nominate you. Anyway, good night. I'm done. Thank you.
God bless.
Chimafidi nunkotu era one radio. Samupe jumpe bietia. Chimafidi nunkotu era one radio. Oh, and you come to Chintu.
They are for women. They are beautiful with brains. They are eloquent, decent, wise, and experienced. You have heard many.
This is not your typical green tea. The Fumigio Herbal Tea by Glucose Care International is a nutritious drink and a natural blood glucose reducer. Gymnema plant, the active ingredient in the Fumigio Herbal Tea, suppresses the absorption of carbohydrate ingested from your diet. The green tea content in the Fumigio Herbal Tea promotes rejuvenation of dead cells, detoxification of your system, stimulates the pancreas to release insulin, and improves metabolism. Drinking one sachet of Fumigio Herbal Tea after meals prevents the rise in blood sugar levels, suppresses appetite, and improves bowel movements. Drinking Fumigio Herbal Tea regularly after meals can also prevent type 2 diabetes. We encourage you to drink Fumigio Herbal Tea 3 times in a day, coupled with mild exercises to maximize its benefits. Fumigio Herbal Tea has been approved by the FDA. Toxicity test conducted by SGS, so it is safe and non-toxic. A product of Singapore. With Fumigio Herbal Tea, your peace of mind is guaranteed. Call Ashok